Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl, and today I'm talking about the books I'm planning on reading in August. I've been pretty excited about my August reading this year because there are two readathons going on that I'm going to participate in, and they go really well together. So first, I'm going to talk about the Prairie Trail Readathon. This readathon is put on by Anne from In Search of Wonder, and it is all Oregon Trail westward expansion related. She has some really cute graphics you can go print out that have basically a little game board, and then also walk you through the different prompts with the points that you can earn and what you get based on the points that you are able to get throughout the readathon. She has said that you don't have to have every single book you read fit into this theme, but there are at least two that I think need to be. The first prompt is Dysentery. Read a historical fiction novel featuring westward expansion in the U.S. between 1780 and 1880. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Oregon Trail, The Race to Chimney Rock. This is a choose your own trail book. The next one is Mountain Pass. Read a nonfiction book about westward expansion, also between 1780 and 1880. And for this, I'm also going to be pre-reading something that I want to use in homeschool when we get to the westward expansion again. The Oregon Trail, the journey across the country from Lewis and Clark to the Transcontinental Railroad. I'm going to take the opportunity of the readathon to read through this really well to decide if we're going to use any of the things in this in our school. The next prompt is Drought. Reread a favorite book or a backlisted book by a favorite author. Any topic, any genre. And I'm going to get back to this in a minute. I'm just going to read through the rest of the prompts because I have some books picked out that I'm going to use, but I'm not sure which ones I'm going to for sure use for every one of these yet. And then Supply Replenishment, read with a buddy. This is one that I do have a particular book for. This can be any topic or any genre, but I'm going to be reading True Sisters by Sandra Dallas with Alma from Alma's Book Journey. This is based on the true handcart pioneers of the Mormon Church, and they're coming out west. And having come from handcart pioneers myself, I am interested to see what this story is like. Hunting, read a book by a new to you author. Wagon Train, finish a series. River Crossing, read any book. Lost Trail, get a book recommendation and add to your TBR. Injured Oxen, unhaul a book. And the rules are there's no doubling up. You can only use one book per prompt. I do have a few books that I'm planning on reading that are not part of the westward expansion time period, but I did also pick a huge pile of books that take place in that time period. There are a few that are high priority, and then the other ones will just be if I can get to them. First one is Wife Number 19 by Mrs. Anne Eliza Young. She was one of Brigham Young, the second prophet of the Mormon Church, one of his plural wives. Obviously, she was number 19, and she was able to get away. This is her autobiography, and I've always been interested in hearing from her. I have learned a lot about the polygamy and what it was really like versus the romanticized version a lot of us are taught in the Mormon Church. And the main reason I picked up that book right now was because I got this book, The 19th Wife by David Ebershoff, and this is a fictionalized version of Anne Eliza Young's story. So I really wanted to get her story either first or at the same time so I can see how much of this book is actually accurate to what she had written about in her own book. So those are probably my two priorities. And then I have two other kind of Mormon related books that go together. And one of them is this nonfiction that I started reading last year and then I put down. This is called Vengeance is Mine, The Mountain Meadows Massacre and Its Aftermath by Richard E. Turley Jr. and Barbara Jones Brown. And I started this, you can see my little tabs. I wasn't sure how I felt about this because for one, he had written a book earlier about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. The first part of this is like a really brief overview of what happened. And then it's going to mostly be the aftermath, I think. And I didn't know that going in. So I'm not sure if I needed to have read his other book in order to get all of his information. But I also feel like they're doing what the Mormon Church kind of does, where they try to make it more of a faithful view of it, as if you can have a faithful view of a massacre. This was a whole wagon train of families from Arkansas that came through Utah and were massacred. All of them except for the ones that were young enough to not tell. And they blamed it on the Native Americans in the area. And finally the truth came out of who did it. They had taken the little kids that they had let live and were raising them. The people who murdered their parents were raising them. And thankfully, I think all of them were able to make it back to other family members eventually. But it's a horrific story. And I wanted a really honest really good overview of it, and I'm not sure if this is going to be it or not. So I do want to try to finish it to see what I think of it. And then I was recommended this book, A Cry from the Dust by Carrie Stewart Parks. And this is a fiction book, but it is a forensic artist who is studying skulls and things from the Mountain Meadow Massacre and finding out information based on what they're finding in the bones. So this sounds so interesting, and I think it's a thriller. So these are the two that would come after those first two as priorities. And then after that, I have 3 other books that take place in that time period that I will get to if I can. And one is A Lantern in Her Hand. This is by Bess Streeter Aldrich. Abby Mackenzie dreamed of becoming a fine lady like her aristocratic grandmother, devoting herself to music and art. But at 18, Abby found a different dream, turning away from the promise of a comfortable life as a doctor's wife to marry handsome, quiet Will Dill. Together, they eagerly accepted the challenge of homesteading in Nebraska territory, where the prairie stretched as far as the eye could see and only the strongest survived for long. I've heard good things about this book. I've wanted to read it for a long time. It's been on my TBR shelf for quite a few years. And then I also have Bound for Oregon by Jean Van Leeuwen. This is another one I've had for quite a while. It's not very long, so hopefully it'll be easy to add on to the end of the month or something. But this is a family, traveling the Oregon Trail. And then one that I am going to be reading for my American literature course this year is Hondo by Louis L'Amour. Louis L'Amour is one of my dad's favorite authors, and I read a lot of his books when I was a kid, and I don't remember ever reading Hondo. So I'm not 100% sure. I haven't read it, but I wanted to read it again just in case. So I'm really looking forward to that readathon. I think it's such a fun one for August. So the other readathon that is going on in August is the End of Summer Jam. It's a mood readathon. And this is being put on by Christy A. Cole. She also has some cute little graphics you can go print off. It has 9 squares because there's 9 prompts. So the thing that is different about this readathon, and the reason it can be used alongside the Prairie Trail Readathon, is that each of these prompts is a question you ask yourself after reading it. So whatever is the first book I read of August that would be for that other readathon, I then ask myself, how did this book make you feel? Talk about the good, the bad, the happy, the sad. The second prompt, describe the setting of this book. Did you like it? Would you want to go to this place? Third, how long has this book been on your TBR? How do you feel now that you've read it, etc. So there are 9 different prompts that are all like that. And so I thought that would be really fun because it will, like I said, go along with what I'm already reading. I will read a book for the other readathon. I'll mark it off on my pages for that. And then as I'm writing each book in my reading journal, I will put the prompt question at the end of my review and answer it. So I think that's going to be really fun to do. There might be a few other books that aren't related to the Prairie Trail Readathon that I will read in August, but the 2 that I know for sure I'm going to be reading are finally reading volume 8 of the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. I've been reading one every single month. It's been very hard to not read them all at once. This is the last one that is out right now. So hopefully number 9 will come out soon. And then I'm going to have one other buddy read with Jess from Pages and Grace. And we're going to be reading The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald together. This is a book I did read in high school and I did not like it. And I've wanted to try it again for a very long time. It's not that long of a book. There have been quite a few books that I read when I was younger that I didn't like, but I do like as an adult. So I want to see if that's the case with this one or not. I'm sure there's going to be things I will see in it that I didn't see then. And also it is on my American literature course list. So that's it. It's a pretty big list of books to get to. I am very excited about them. I think there's going to be some really good ones and really interesting ones here, and I am excited to do these readathons. I would love to know if you're taking part in either of these readathons or have read any of these books, which ones you think sound the most interesting. And I will have one other video coming this week. So watch out for that on Thursday.